Hello. Welcome to Cinefilm Recap. A man gets a container of toy warriors as a gift from an obscure man. He believes it's simply a kid's toy, yet the warriors show signs of life and transform the man's life into a genuine bad dream. Today we will recap the 2006 film Nightmare and Dreamscape. A man named Jason Renshaw is driving his vehicle through Dallas around. Morris checks out at it with delicacy under the light. Jason takes out his optics and searches for someone in the sparkling. With a decided look, he pulls up to the doors of Morris, an organization that makes kids' toys, and stops. In the interim, the organization's president, named Hans Morris, is remaining late working. He strolls around the stockroom and takes a gander at his most loved toys. Hans Morris gets the pixie doll and takes it to his office on the highest level of the industrial facility. Morris sees Jason's vehicle and freezes. He turns his look to an outline photo remaining on the windowsill. It's a picture of Morris' mom. The lady sees herself as her child's principal motivation. Maybe Jason has been sitting tight for this exact second, completes his espresso, and chooses to act. Jason puts on his overshoes, gloves, and cover. In the interim, the Morris manufacturing plant safety officer is watching soccer on television. Out of nowhere, he hears a duck quacking at the front entryway and chooses to look at the spot behind the transparent entryway on the entry edge of the structure. The safety officer sees a telephone, the screen of which shows a message. It's a bomb. The message suggests that it will detonate in 10 seconds. He snatches the gatekeeper and medications him to rest. Then, at that point, the gatecrusher takes his casualties' keys and strolls through the entryways of the structure. With the assistance of the observation cameras, Jason recognizes another gatekeeper. The lowlife tracks down a subsequent watchman and weakens him with a resting dart. He attempts to oppose, however Jason handily dispatches him without showing his face. Morris' office and utilizations the security card to get inside. Jason gradually propels toward him out of the haziness, and Morris starts to defenselessly cry and wring his hands. Morris falls into his seat and passes away. Jason then sees the plenty of toys on the racks in the workplace. He strolls around the work area, actually looks at Morris' heartbeat, and afterward sees his mom's photograph. His consideration is attracted to the strange subtitle on the picture. Then, at that point, Jason sees the little wrap-up pixie, takes a gander at it in a delicate manner, and places it in. The man sends his boss and asks. She contacts message, watch the news, move the cash. It just so happens Jason is a contract killer for employee. The man's message is perused by his voyaging sidekick on the plane. The man removes the gum from his pack. The voyaging sidekick sees the pixie and appears to reach a few inferences. At the San Francisco Air Terminal, Jason sees a news report about the passing of incredibly popular toy producer Hans Morris. It is crafted by an agreement executioner. Jason then, at that point, he sees a young lady with the very same toy that was in Morris' office. The toy doll lingers directly before Jason's face. The man then, at that point, pulls up in a taxi to his home. Jason at long last eliminates his earphones and breathes out unobtrusively. Then Jason scrubs down with the duck, gets dressed, and places the breeze-up pixie in his storage with his other prizes, which Jason has in excess of 12 of. He really takes a look at his mail. His boss composes that he has proactively wired the cash for Morris, and offers a comparable work in London. At night, the man awakens on the sofa in an awkward position and checks out of the recording from the camera over the front entryway. Incidentally, the attendant young lady stopped by and brought a little bundle by the entryway. In light of the fact that he wasn't anticipating any bundles from anybody, notwithstanding, he opens the entryway and takes the container. The man brings the bundle into the kitchen and puts it on the table. Joined to the crate is a note with Jason's name, his location, and Morris' mom's mark. The man starts to open the bundle, slicing through the string and wrapping paper with a blade warily. Inside is a bunch of toy warriors, 20 infantrymen, 3 helicopters, lieutenants, paramedics. The set is created by the Morris Youngsters Toy Organization. There is a shock inside sticker on the rear of the case. However, Jason doesn't see it. Yet there's nothing similar to that. It's simply a not unexpected Youngsters set. Jason takes a gander at the note endorsed by Morris' mom, and afterward looks at one of the tow warriors and tosses it back into the case. The man loses interest in the bundle and continues on ahead. Unexpectedly, he hears a thunder and sees that the open box of toy warriors has tumbled off the table. Jason gradually strolls around the kitchen table, attempting to find what could have pushed the case. Yet, he sees nothing strange. Out of nowhere, he sees that the drapery behind him is moving. The man promptly inspects the shade, however tracks down nothing behind it. From that point forward, while Jason is attempting to sort out the electrical issue, an air gun with a knife jams into his leg. It's the size of a toothpick. The work area light in the loft goes out. Jason neglects to turn it on, so he arrives at under the table and sees that the wire appears to have been cut. Quickly, the lights go out over the kitchen oven. Jason analyzes the toy weapon with shock, stepping back. The effect is agonizing, compelling Jason to group up and move to somewhere safe and secure. The man pants in agony and gazes into the murkiness under the lounge chair. Then he bounces up pointedly and rapidly runs into the restroom, shutting the entryway behind him. There, Jason looks at his injuries. The howitzer shell tore his jeans and left a profound scraped spot on his knee. The rifle shots penetrated the skin all over. It wasn't excessively intense, yet it wasn't charming, all things considered. He looks again at the rifle and knife and discards it furiously. Then, at that point, the man takes a little mirror, sits on a seat by the restroom exit, and carefully makes the way for survey what is happening. A lot more obscure. A howitzer shell hits a table light and it blasts into blazes. This enrages Jason. The shooting stops for a couple of moments. Yet, obviously, the troopers quickly notice Jason from behind the half-open entryway and begin focusing on him. He then pulls the shards of glass from his neck and face and goes to the room, close to the washroom. Here he takes his weapon from the end table, loads it, and conclusively leaves these restrooms, starting to shoot at his full under the sofa bar. He drinks a bourbon to find some peace with what's happening and pulls an automatic rifle from a bureau. The man fires under the sofa, thumping the pointless furniture away from it. The faux fire quickly stops. Jason circumvents the sofa, loses every one of the pads the love seat, letting out a victorious shout. The man then turns the lounge chair over and gazes in surprise at the heap of toy troopers. Not every one of them endure. They rapidly set the hardware up and leave. Orderlies deal with the injured, and steps on the fighters with his foot. The others open shoot on the man. However, he rapidly incapacitates his rivals with a couple of gunshots. Abruptly, on the opposite side of the room, peculiar commotions are heard from under the end table. In no time, 3 helicopters fly out of there. The man figures out how to duck, and the shells blow separated a portion of his kitchen. Then, at that point, the man raises his head and is promptly slammed at max throttle by the helicopters. Jason blows a gasket and relinquishes his weapon. However, he promptly gets the weapon among the flotsam and jetsam and plans to go after once more. One of the helicopters circles around the room and approaches his adversary from the side of the pool. Here the man attempts to quiet his shudder and wash his injuries, moaning in torment. A short time later, Jason gradually strolls to the entryway and pays attention to the quiet in the room. He loosens up a little, however, at that point a boisterous bang goes off, and a shot makes a major opening in the entryway. A helicopter quickly flies into it. The officers don't find the adversary in the restroom immediately, it as hard as possible. At that point, one more enduring helicopter flies into the restroom and starts shooting. Jason frightens him away with a gun fired, and the helicopter takes off. The man tracks the foe through the opening in the entryway and afterward gets back to the helicopter as yet a stirring sound in the latrine bowl. So Jason flushes once more, then transforms on the hair dryer and tosses it into the water with the foe struggling in it. His arrangement to kill the fighters works. However, the lights quickly go out in the whole loft. Somewhat fulfilled, Jason chooses to dodge behind the latrine for some time. Subsequent to slowing down to rest, the man repairs his knee twisted in the dimness. He figures out how to string the needle and clean himself up. Under the sink, he finds a bug repellent with a high liquor content. The man sees a little shadow under the restroom entryway. It's one of the fighters establishing a note that says "Give up." Jason looks toward the room in bewilderment. There is a prompt upheaval from across the room. Jason gets back the towel and sees through the opening as the troopers load the howitzer. Promptly, the entryway is torn open by shells in many spots. Jason figures out how to take off a side. The man understands that the washroom can never again act as haven, and moves through the window onto the edge. He does whatever it takes not to peer down from the 40th floor and, clutching the edges on the wall, advances around the structure. A helicopter flies out of the washroom window out from the shadows searching. Presently can't seem to see it. The man is compelled to stroll along a tight shaft to move through one more window of his loft. Jason practices intense mindfulness. The helicopter rises to Jason's head and shoots into his ear. The man shouts, gripping the injury, yet wonderfully clutches the pillar. The helicopter moves away, yet the shooter before long runs out of ammo, yet continues to fly. The man attempts to shoot once more, however runs out of ammunition too. The helicopter detonates, simply creeps from Jason's feet. The man attempts to slow down and rest by embracing the edge, forsakes the pointless weapon and circumspectly forges ahead with his way. Jason can't bear to make any commotion so as not to offer his development to the leftover foes in the loft, his gallery. Jason looks into the loft and sees the leftover officers supporting each other before another fight. They are all set and they, as far as possible, in the wake of surveying what is going on. Jason sees a fire quencher on the overhang and another strategy develops to him. As an interruption, he wins the duck and tosses it into the pool. Hearing it quack, the warriors leave their situation and go on an observation mission. Jason exploits his foes' disarray by circumventing them from behind and splashing them with froth from the fire quencher. The fighters actually race to the howitzer and attempt to stack it. The man takes out the bug repellent and a lighter meanwhile. But since of the gunfire, Jason can't focus and flick the lighter. The decided shooter crushes Jason's prize bureau simultaneously. At last, the lighter goes off, the man begins splashing bug repellent, and prevails with regards to making a custom-made flamethrower. He dispatches them with a wild shout. From that point onward, the shell destroys Jason's #1 duck. The froth of the fire douser scatters, and the man detects one more gathering of fighters. During their disarray, Jason moves a weighty box over them and strikes. As of now, the fighters are certainly finished. He dismantles the weapons for parts, counts every one of the fighters and dispatches the in-the-waste disposal. Depleted, however happy with himself, Jason goes to rest. The man some way or another repairs his injuries, changes into his shower robe and chooses to have a lager. He swims endlessly further and is going to make a plunge. However, at that point he hears a dubious stir. Then Jason yanks strongly in agony and hops up, holding his wrist. The man rapidly swims to the edge of the pool and rises out of it. Sneaking around the bend, he investigates the water, however sees nothing dubious in it. Be that as it may, there is currently a huge slit on his wrist. Jason folds a towel over the injury, keeps on glancing around, and moves in an opposite direction from the pool with sickening dread. Sitting in his room, after a few fruitless endeavors to help himself, Jason moans irately and frustratedly and chooses to escape the condo to certainly stand out enough to be noticed. He secures the injury, gets dressed, and, glancing around, goes into the kitchen, where a card for a Crisis 24, our administration, is hanging. As he does as such, Jason keeps his eyes on the front entryway of his loft. The lift shows up, the man enters and starts to plummet to the principal floor. Jason is anxious to accept that he is protected here. Somebody is by all accounts descending through the wall toward the buttons. Abruptly, the button board detonates, the lights go out, and the lodge stops. The above hatch starts to open. A toy warrior from a similar toy set enters the lodge through it. The man enlightens the lodge with a spotlight, yet can't find the foe. Other wrist. The man groans in agony and attempts to gauze the injuries. He then takes a gander at the wrecked lift button board, lastly sees his foe. It ends up being a no-nonsense extraordinary powers troop. The foes peer into one another's eyes in the flashing light, and Jason understands that the commando not entirely set in stone. The man sees as the foe advances toward the top while he, at the end of the day, attempts to fix his injuries with a belt. Out of nowhere, the commando starts shooting. However, Jason figures out how to avoid his shots. He rests on top of the lodge and, having some time off, chooses to glance around. Since the man's loft is on the 40th floor and the lift got stuck very quickly, Jason understands that hopping down isn't a choice. The commando shoots him in the heel. Jason shouts in torment, turns over onto his back. There's a little injury on his foot. Jason sees that the commando has equipped himself with a blade and has moved to the top shaft. He is wanton and prepared to assault. Notwithstanding, Jason likewise sees a subsequent lift taxi. It's ready to rock and roll and it's going straight down. He breathes out in alleviation, opens the top lid and hops down inside the taxi. He raises a ruckus around town hard, causing him torment. With the remainder of his solidarity, Jason arrives at the board and presses the button for the main floor. That would have been fine, then again. Actually, the commando moved into the lodge along with Jason, clutching the man's shoe. He gradually gets on top of Jason and strolls across his chest with a victorious look all over. He conveys a couple of fast, exact hits, and it is solely after that the man throws him to the side and implodes on his side. That would have been fine, then again. Actually, the commando moved into the lodge along with Jason, clutching the man's shoe, thumping his weapon away. Then the man gradually pushes the jerking commando under the lift entryways, which are going to close. The extraordinary powers toy snarls and battles as hard as possible, attempting to hold the lift entryways open. However, he is just a toy, so he comes up short on strength, and soon the bold toy is squashed by the lift entryways. His body stays in Jason's grasp. Unexpectedly, the man hears the particular sound of a ticking bomb. He turns the commando over and sees a red light blazing in his rucksack. Jason understands that the blast is seconds away. He is in a shut-lift lodge and there is no opportunity to make a difference either way. The man giggles, sees his last rival, and acknowledges his destiny. A blast emits, the flares from which spread all through the deep opening. In Jason's broken loft, the container of toy troopers lays on the table. The name has stripped off a little, and under we see that Jason got a reward, a commando contender with a convenient nuclear charge. The pixie toy begins turning in the executioner's wrecked prize bureau. So, what strategies of fighting against a little foe could you pick? Leave your remarks beneath and, assuming you partaking in the recap, kindly consider like and subscribe into Cinefilm Recap. Gratitude for observing.